Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to continue working on our 2020 Toyota RAV4 XSE hybrid, all-wheel drive. Last time we got it all apart, got it pulled a little bit. This time we're going to finish off our pulls and hopefully get some parts on. Let's get started. So we're going to continue pulling on our floor here, our spare tire well. A little stress relieving, not the hammering kind. We're just going to pry out a little bit where that kink is. It does the same thing as hammering it out. And just to fine tune it, we're going to hammer and dolly it to get it all flat because we did have some peaks in there. So we'll kind of get it straight so it doesn't look so obvious that it's crunched. We'll put the factory bends where they belong and get rid of the ones that don't belong there. We'll scrape off the seam sealer on the rest of the body panel we didn't take off last time so that we can see our spot welds and go ahead and grind or drill those out depending on where they are. We're going to grind these. We're not going to use our belt sander. And I had a lot of people ask why I don't use it. Well, the grinding disc costs like less than $1, and belt sanding belts cost quite a bit more, and the die grinding disc lasts a lot longer. So when you're paying to rebuild cars, you use the cheapest materials possible to get the job done. So that's what I do. Now we're going to drill out our spot welds for our bumper reinforcement mount. Drill our pilot holes, they're 1/8 inch, and then we'll go over it with an 8mm bit. Use our metric conversion in there because we are working on a Japanese car. Now we can start separating all our spot welds. And that got old, so now we're going to use Big Bertha to just rip them out. Takes a lot less time this way. We got the majority of them, probably about 90%. We'll knock the few that didn't come out and twist it off. You know. And I'd like to award Toyota with a participation trophy. At least you tried. I mean, there's 2 little spots there that won't rust because you did get some cavity wax there. Just not where it mattered. Good effort. Now that our award ceremony is over, back to some work. We'll straighten out the lower part of this quarter panel. It got pushed in when whatever hit it. So we're just going to put a little tension on the back and hammer out all these little kinks that aren't supposed to be there and put back the ones that are supposed to be in there. Now we're going to move on to the floor underneath the battery. And it's got a little bit of a roll in the bottom, so we're just going to put a little tension on it and hammer it out. Get it nice and flat. It's right in that corner. Kind of hard to get to. But when you put a little tension on the back of it, it does come out. Put our clamp off of there. And we'll hammer and dolly the rest of it. Get it all back to its original shape. This metal moves pretty easy. If you thought GM's Pladonium was weak, this is actually Jello-infused Pladonium that they use on Toyotas. So it moves no problem. Now we're going to grind off all of our old spot welds and clean up the surfaces that we're going to weld to. So we're ready to throw our weld through primer up there and get ready to weld. After we test fit some parts, of course. So rather than drilling out a bunch of spot welds in the body panel, we're just going to punch out our old spot welds with our little punch here, and then we can weld right through that. That way we don't have to mess up our body panel, and we don't have to spend time drilling it. Just takes a second to punch each hole. The hole punch also doesn't distort the metal like drilling will sometimes. And then we'll clean up both sides of those. We're going to weld through it. And then we can set our brand new rear body panel up here. Clamp it all up. Now we're going to scribe all those holes that we just punched in there so we know where they go on our rear body panel. Then we'll pull the body panel off, grind off all the primer that comes from the factory on there, and we'll put some welded primer on it and be ready to weld. You can lay the old body panel over the new body panel and mark all the holes that way. Since I did punch out the old spot welds, they'd be about the same place. But this gives me a chance to fit the body panel as well and mark exactly where they go. So now we'll unclamp it and we'll allow Scott to do the only painting he's allowed to do with a spray can. So we're just going to spot in all of our welds. You don't want to put welded primer anywhere other than where we're going to weld to. Even though it's called primer, it's really not. It doesn't work like normal primer. So we have the poor man's masking system, or the lazy man's masking system, I guess, because I'm lazy and I'm using it. Just gonna go all along, wherever we're welding to. And as soon as that dries, we're ready to throw our body panel up here. Got a gnome to help us with this one. We'll clamp it up. Everything all lined up. And we're going to run some self-tapping screws in here. Got a couple extra holes to weld up. Move our clamp. Get one more screw in it. We need to put screws in here because we're going to close the hatch and the clamps are going to be in the way. So the screws will hold it for now. Now we're going to pull our old hatch apart. We're going to need the latch out of it. So we'll pull these grab handles off. And there's a couple of screws inside. We'll buzz those out of there. And then we can pull the cover off the back. It's got some clips that just clip in. We can unbolt our latch. Unplug it. Unplug the rest of it. Never have too many plugs for the latch, I guess. Bolt our latch into our new hatch. And this hatch is the reason this vehicle is totaled. There's no more snow on the ground. Gives you an idea how long I had to wait for this thing, which is why they totaled it. They don't want to pay a rental car. Well, the people wait 3 months for a hatch. Now, for those of you that complain my videos are not always current, if I had posted this when I got the car and started working on it, you would have had to wait 3 months to see the rest of the work done on it. And as we know from the Mustang, you have no patience. So I chose to just wait and save the whole build till I could get it done and show it to you all at one time, which apparently you're still not happy with. So how about I just do it my own way, and y'all can just go watch something else if you don't like it. So thank you for listening to our public service announcement about how I can't make everybody happy, so I just do what I want, and why I will continue to do just what I want. And during our public service announcement, we got our latch in here, and we had a gnome help us, and we're putting the hatch back on. We're going to start all our bolts, and then we're going to tighten them up with our ratcheting hammer, as the gnome is a little too short to hold the hatch all the way up, so I can get a ratchet in there. He's taller than me, but still too short. Now we're going to throw the hatch gasket back up here. The belt molding installation tool works best for this application. We have to make sure we get Toyota's gooey fun stuff all over our brand new rear body panel. I don't care. I'm not the guy that's got to clean it off before I paint it, so it doesn't matter to me. But I want to make sure it's going to seal nice and tight. And it just wipes off with wax and grease remover anyway. So, now we'll close the hatch and see if it fits. So far, so good. Now we're going to pull the spoiler off the top of our hatch. We'll pop the little plugs out, cover up the screws. We'll pull all the nuts off of the studs. We'll unbolt the side trim. Pop this cover off. There's a couple more screws inside. And then that panel should just pop off of there. There's one plug for the rear stoplight. We need to put this on our new hatch so that we know if it's going to line up with the roof, because it lines up at the top of this spoiler. So, better test fit it now than later and find out we have problems. We'll bolt in the upper bumper brackets / taillight supports. And then we can slide our taillight in here. Just clips in on the outside. Snaps into the quarter panel. And we'll just throw a screw in there to hold it in. One should be all we need. You can do the same thing on the driver's side. Slide the tab in on the quarter. Clip it in. And we'll run our screw in there. And close our hatch. So far, so good. We're not hitting our taillights. So now we'll put the hatch taillights in so we can see if they line up. They clip in. We throw a couple nuts on the back of the studs just so they don't end up on the floor. because having to buy parts twice always hurts the profitability of rebuilds. Put the one in this side. Flip it in. And now we're going to take our old bumper apart. We're going to need some of these parts so we can fit our bumper cover. We need these side panels. Unscrew them, and then we'll use our electric clip remover. Pop the tabs off of them. And pop the two covers apart. And pull the other side apart. Pull the two screws out of there. Little clips out. Guess the battery is dead in the electric clip remover. Pop this cover off. Put our little J-nuts on our new lower cover. And we'll put the upper side cover on. This is the original one. Our driver's side wasn't damaged. So we'll clip it in there. Put our little plastic clips in. And put the screws in. Now put the J-nuts on the passenger side. So we're ready to put our, well, I'm going to use the used cover. We actually did get a new one, but this one wasn't too bad. Rather than taking the new out and scratching it up, I just use the old one. We'll slide our bumper down here. Not a lot of room with our hatch support there, aka conduit. Clip it in with our bumper installation tool. We didn't put it all together, there's no sensors in it. We just need to make sure the outsides fit where they're supposed to fit. So we'll bolt it in. And we're ready to close our hatch and see how everything lines up. Closes pretty nice. Our gaps don't look too bad. We can move it around a little bit. So I think we're ready to take everything apart and start welding it. We'll open up our hatch. Take that out of the way so we don't have to use our hatch support. Actually, we have a hatch support gnome right now. I'm a little taller right now, so we can actually get our electric ratchet in there. I'm going to take this off, and he's going to go over there and paint the inside of it. So I can put it back on as soon as I'm done. Pull our taillight out and our bumper bolt. Taillight out of the other side. And pull our bumper out of our quarter brackets. A little wiggle and pull. Grab the other side. Some of these brackets don't like to let go. Now we'll set this off to the side. Now that we've verified all our parts fit, it's time to start welding in our rear body panel, since we're not going to have to move it around anymore. At least I hope we don't, because it's going to be a little more difficult right now than it was previously. Controlled burn there. So now the hatch is all painted up. We're going to start stripping some of the parts off of our old hatch and put them in our new hatch. And while we're doing that, the gnome is over there grinding away on all the stuff we just welded up. And we'll get our rear body panel painted up so we can throw the rest of that back together. We'll feed our wires through for our lift struts. A little cramped in there because the gauge smashed. But we'll get them out. We can unbolt our struts. Same thing on the other side. A little more room to get the wires out of this side. Bolt those. And we're ready to put our hatch back on. So we took the hinges off, painted them with the hatch so that there wasn't any marks visible from using a wrench on the bolts. Everything's painted. Now we'll just tighten them up underneath. where if we disturb any paint, no one's going to see. We'll bolt our lift struts into our new hatch. We put our clips on the bottom of those. So now we just snap them in on the quarter panels. And the gnome has officially lost his usefulness for now. We'll start plugging in our harness for our rear body panel. Everything's all painted in here. It's all seam sealed. Bolt in the little brackets that hold our rear body panel to the floor. Click. And we'll put the little plugs in the rear body panel. I just took those out of the old body panel. I leave them in there so I don't forget where they go and I don't lose them. Pop in all our little plastic retainers. Then we'll fish the harness in for the driver's side. This is the rear bumper harness. It also goes to the radar unit and our little hatch speaker for the beeper. Push the grommet in. We just had this out of the way so we didn't mess it up while we were painting. Didn't have to tape it off. We had it all unplugged anyway. Just unclip it and pull it out. Plug in all our clips and our little beeper in the back. We can put our radar unit back on. Bolt it in. Torque it down to OEM specs. Measured in electronic ugga-duggas. Bolt that one in. Then we'll bolt our bracket in for our bumper and taillight. For the last time, I hope. We'll run that harness up the inside of our D-pillar and plug it in. And now we can put our bumper reinforcement on. Line up our alignment tabs. And we'll start the screws in there. Work those down to manufacturer's recommended ugga-duggas. Now we'll put our striker in for our rear hatch. It is self-aligning, so we'll just snug it up slowly over the lines, tighten it down. And we'll get our torque wrench out. Click. Click. Now we can drop our subwoofer in here. Line up all the tabs. Bolt it in. And plug it in. We can drop our battery in here. Move the cables out of the way. You don't want to get stuck behind there. Put the hold down in. Tighten that up. There's a drain tube for the battery, so you've got to make sure you plug that in. It goes through the rear body panel. We'll pull one of our wiring harnesses through. It's actually our washer line harness. Plug that in. Plug in our washer. And we'll put our little sound insulator in the back of the hatch. I guess if you wait 3 months for a hatch, they don't have time to put that little sound deadening panel in there. You have to do it yourself. You also have to seam seal it yourself. Like I said, 3 months isn't enough time to finish the job, I guess. Right, Toyota? But waiting 3 months for a hatch still saved me over $2,000 from buying a used one instead, which I could have had, in 2 days. We'll put our rear camera on. This is the rear camera that projects what you see in the rearview mirror. And our rear gate module clips in there, stays in place just long enough for you to almost get the bolts in and then falls out. And then you got to hold it back up there and put the bolts in. And we'll put our wiper motor on, complete with wiper arm. Normally you have to take the wiper arm off to get it through the back window, but, well, somebody removed the back window in the accident, so I didn't have to worry about that. Put the little button in, close the door. Just snaps in there. And we'll snap our wiring harness in. Flip it in everywhere, plug it in. Then we'll fish our wires through the hatch. All 6 feet of them, because we couldn't put the plugs in a convenient location. That's not how we do things at Toyota. So once that mess is through the hatch, we can run it through the top of our jam. A little more room to work in here at least. Feed everything through. And we'll push our grommets down in there. And start running our wiring harness down towards the D pillar so we can plug it all in. And we should be able to use everything in our gate. We can bolt our latch in, hopefully for the last time. Now that the back end's all together, enough for the painting gnome to paint the outside of our gate, we're going to get our front bumper off. We need to replace the upper bumper cover, and the lower bumper cover has a little damage on it, most likely from the loaders at the auction. We're going to pull this splash shield off the bottom, and I know why all manufacturers clip everything together. It's because Toyota used all the fasteners to put this splash shield in. And I do mean all the fasteners. I mean, there's like 12 in the bottom of this thing. There's not that many in the rest of the bumper. But they really wanted to make sure the splash shield wasn't coming out. There's one more in the back here. Kind of hard to get to with the tire, and I didn't feel like taking the tire off, so we'll pull some little plastic clips out of our wheel liner. Pop those out. And one screw in the top. Now we can pull our wheel opening molding out of our bumper. Just clips into the back. Since we had that wheel liner out, we can squeeze the tabs. We don't break those clips. Now we'll head over to the driver's side. Pop our little plastic clips out. And our one screw. Disconnect this wheel opening molding. And there's one push pin behind it. The other one was pushed out of the other side. And we'll pull the bumper out of its clips. A couple bolts on the top. And we'll reach in and we'll unplug all the parking sensors and fog lights. One harness that runs across. There's 2 plugs on that side. Quite a few wires. There's also a radar unit in there for the distance sensing cruise control. And we'll pull our bumper out. Here's, we also have a broken fog light in there that I didn't know about. I do now. This bumper, like the rear bumper, is made up of a bunch of different pieces. About 5 of them, I think. So we'll pull the screws out. We'll use our electric clip remover. Pop those little clips out of there. And we'll use our hand clip remover. A couple more screws on this side. Pop the clips out of this side. We'll pop the covers off for the tow hooks. There's one cover in each piece of the bumper. They're also different colors because the idea of moving the tow hook mount one side or the other to make it one opening eluded the engineers at Toyota. So instead we have 2 pieces to get lost. But they do have little tethers, so that helps. Squeeze the little tabs on the tethers because once you break them, the next tow truck driver that takes them off is going to lose them. At least now they'll just dangle there and scratch the paint as it's blowing away in the wind going down the road. Genius idea. So now we're ready to separate our lower cover and pull it out of its little snaps. And there's actually 2 pieces in there. Both of them are damaged. The silver piece in the center's got a couple dents in it. We'll just heat those up and pop them out. And we're on to the back of the vehicle. We have our antenna. Our other one was kind of broken. So we'll plug it in. There's one tab on one side that keeps it level, and then just one nut that holds it onto the body panel. And we'll tighten it up with our driver that identifies as a torque ring. Then we're going to go throw it up on the lift so we can put our heat shield up above our muffler, below our spare tire well, back on. 4 nuts that hold it on to the studs. And now we can teach Toyota the proper method to cavity wax the inside of these frame rails. We're going to pull the little caps off of here, and we'll get the wand up there, and we'll get a good coating inside the frame rail. We're not only doing this to show Toyota what they did wrong, we're doing this to make sure that we don't have any rust from the paint that we disturbed in there. There's a few holes. We'll just use whatever we can, get a good coating. A little extra isn't going to hurt. Put our caps back on. Now we can throw our muffler back up there. Slide the hanger in on the driver's side. That'll hold it up for us. We can go over to the passenger side. Slide that hanger on. There's one more hanger up in front of the muffler. Put that on. Put our gasket in between the two pipes. Put our pipes together and bolt them together. Yeah, we got to use the original bolts because this is a Texas car. In Illinois, they wouldn't even look like bolts anymore. Now, as a model of inefficiency, we're going to put the trailer hitch on. It would have been much easier to get that in before we put the exhaust up. But well, I'm new here. It's not a terrain. I don't know what I'm doing. So we'll weasel it in there. At least with the muffler there, we got an extra set of hands to help us hold it while we run the bolts in. We'll get them started. We'll do the side that's a pain. We have to do with the wrench. The battery's in our way. We'll let the lift down because I'm tired of standing on my tippy toes. Just complicates the job. Although it is good for calf development in case you miss leg day. We'll tighten up the passenger side with our ratcheting hammer. Would have been nice if we could have gotten impact in there like we did on the driver's side, but oh well. Now we'll throw our bumper bracket in, side headlight bracket, and the driver's side. And we're back to the front bumper. We got to pull some more parts off of this. Pull license plate bracket off. We're going to separate the grill from the lower cover. A couple of clips in there. Squeeze the tabs and they pop right out. And we're going to hand that off to the bodywork gnome. There's a couple little parts that need to be painted on it. And we have our new rear cover, but it doesn't come with the parking sensor clips. You have to buy those separately. Seems like there's a lot of finishing Toyota's assembly after you buy new parts. So we're going to put our primer on for our two-sided tape. We want to make sure that this thing really sticks because we don't want those sensors falling out of there. They do have to be recalibrated, which is another additional cost. So we did get all new parts. We're not going to retape those. They're not that expensive. I think they're like $7 a piece. So yeah, about $30 for the parking sensor clips. Peel the backings off and stick them on there. The outside ones are different than the inside ones. That's why they're different colors. And there's a different right and a left. There's an outline in the bumper cover to show you where they line up. All of our parts are hung in the painting room with care in hopes that the painting gnome soon will be here. So once they get here and paint all our parts, we'll throw them back on our RAV4. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. So the reason this thing was totaled wasn't because of money, wasn't because of safety. It was just because of parts availability, which is becoming more and more of a problem in 2022. And I don't think it's getting any better anytime soon. So you're going to see a lot of total losses that really shouldn't be total losses. And I might start getting some easy rebuilds for a change.